Russia's invasion of Ukraine is underway.
Russia launched a record number of drones on Sunday.
European countries have come together, having understood that the US is no longer a reliable ally.
If you're not going to pay, we're not going to defend. I said that 7 years ago.
What's at stake in Ukraine is nothing less than the peaceful order of our entire continent.
800 billion euros of defense expenditures for a safe and resilient Europe.
So maybe you should drive immediately to Ukraine. Are you ready? To it.
We do not want to be depending on Red China or to the United States because they're not friendly governments.
How do you see the future of combat warfare in general?
Something is blowing up here, artillery and so on. The pieces of metal, we should stop them.
80% of the damage is already done with drones in the company. 80%, 80.
Product management team that solve problems on the front line using technology.
There's usually visual navigation sensors that are usually looking down.
Hey folks, Andreas here. So in this video we'll do something a little bit different. We will talk about the European sovereignty, the ability of Europe to defend itself, and especially the war in Ukraine has kind of shown to everybody how different modern warfare actually is. It's all about drones, about jamming of drones, and there's like so much about tech innovation and all this kind of stuff. And it's quite frankly very close to startup innovation cycles and how startups work. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to meet the people behind this newly emerging early stage DevTech startup scene in Europe. And we will do like multiple things in this video. We'll do like this whole trip across Europe, but we will go to Amsterdam where we go to like a hackathon, and like I want to understand from organizers why they're doing this, what's their goal, why they're trying to get people in there, and also like what's the motivation of the participants to be there, and like how do they actually work directly with Ukrainian frontline needs and all this kind of stuff. Number two, we'll talk to a founder of a drone tech company that wants to be fully full stack sovereign European, no Chinese, no American parts, no foreign parts whatsoever. And number three, we'll go to a drone factory and like look at the prototyping lab and understand what kind of concerns they have to deal with, like how they have to think about security, all these kind of aspects. And number four, we will speak with one of the best investors in this field, who's not only running some of the largest meetups, largest boot camps, working with multiple governments to help them figure out how to do modern procurement, but he's also doing like a side project where he's basically modding trucks and minivans to make them into emergency vehicles for soldiers on the front line, making them like with blast shields and like jam abilities and all this kind of stuff. And I wanted to see those because that's completely volunteer run and completely donation based, and that's really, really cool because it kind of shows that you can just do things, right? Anyway, this is what we're doing. Quick disclaimer number one, this video will be about, you can call it defense, resilience, doesn't matter. In the end, it will be about weapons and war and the business behind war. This is a tough topic, and I understand if this is not your thing, I fully get it. I wanted to understand, like, I want to meet the people behind it. I want to understand what motivates them. And I also want to understand how does the front line look nowadays, and yeah, all this kind of stuff. So we'll get a lot of like behind the scenes. There will be nothing gory here. There will be nothing disgusting, but like, I still think it's a very tough topic. And if this is not your video, I fully get that. Number two, YouTube's algorithm will kill this video, and I hate to do this. I normally don't do this, but like, please like or share this video if you think it's good and if you think it's important, because quite frankly, I don't think that the algorithm will actually like, it will bury and punish it. But yeah. Anyway, let's get going. We start with our tour in Amsterdam to meet the European DefenseTech Hackathon, one of the largest series in this field. So let's go to Amsterdam. Let's freaking go.
We want the brightest, most sensitive, thoughtful people working on defense. And if we restrict defense to just macho people who want to build bombs and kill people, to put it bluntly, we're worse off as a society.
You've been organizing this whole thing, this whole weekend. What happened on this weekend here?
Well, we brought more than 200 people together in Amsterdam to build the future of defense, to develop the means to defend democracy and human rights, and tackle urgent security challenges on everything to counter fiber optic drones, but also to coordinate unmanned ground vehicles to send robots, not humans, to the front line.
What's your personal motivation and your personal vision for this? Like, why are you doing this?
I do this because this is important. Just imagine all the liberties that we take for granted, you know, human rights. We're super proud to not have slavery today. We're super proud that not anyone can take our property away from us or bomb our homes and cars. Now, we need to have the means to defend these liberties if we have to, because unfortunately, not everyone subscribes to human rights. And this is why we need to develop defense tech and defense innovation.
And a lot of this stuff is like directly used in the Ukrainian frontline, right?
It will be, and that is also our ambition. This hackathon serves as the entry point to get new brains into the field, to develop prototypes will then mature into products and who will be used in Ukraine and hopefully reach the front line.
So like the number one winner we just talked to, they are basically doing like a last-ditch effort to just protect yourself from a drone attack. And I assume a lot of those projects have been in this vein here, right?
Absolutely. It's not always super clear-cut whether you use a missile to defend against an enemy drone or whether you use it to attack it. That is clear. But then on the other hand, and that's also what we want to convey as the European Defence Tech Hub, it's more than just rockets, bombs and missiles. It's also radar to detect landmines, to prevent people from being killed. Demining is a major issue. And the very same thing is also about first aid. It's about procuring spare parts. It's about fixing procurement itself. It's literally everything that saves human lives down the road.
What have you guys worked on this weekend?
We worked on Iron Curtain. Iron Curtain is an active defense system countering quadcopter drones. Specifically, we're trying to target FPV drones, those that use both radio frequencies and also fiber optic.
How?
We are developing a small countermeasure system that can be attached onto existing structures like door frames, windows, garage doors.
Are you planning to make this into a company?
I would like to. I would like to get this to the front. I like to get this in the hands of the people who will use this and that this will protect them.
So we're now with Max of Brave from Ukraine. Yes. What's Brave One?
Brave One is a government agency in legal terms, but basically it's a center of ecosystem. Brave One started this process of building defense tech ecosystem in Ukraine almost 2 years ago. In our portfolio, more than 3,500 or 800 products in different areas and different pillars of defense tech, starting from UAVs to artificial intelligence. We are right now, it's a product management company, product management team that solve problems on the front line using technology and deploys the technology on the front line.
I heard from like a few DevTech founders in Ukraine that right now the iteration speed between new ideas and then countermeasure those ideas is like in the weeks. Yes. So you basically have to like on a weekly basis, you have to like iterate what you're actually doing.
Yes. It's a software-driven war, you know. So the speed of software is completely replicates all the situation on the front line. So most of companies run in the sprints, 2-week sprints with demo in the end. It's basically how Brave One also works.
I mean, this is a crazy part about like this war. Like I don't know any software engineering team in Europe that didn't have like at least one person in the Ukraine or from the Ukraine. Like this is a European war right now, like, and it's happening on our border. And right now we have like this whole worldwide shift of everything. Anyway, thanks so much for what you're doing. How can people help Brave One?
Firstly, try to solve the problem that we shared during the hackathon and other events. If they want to contact Brave One, just visit our website, brave1.gov.ua, and let's have a contact.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks so much for your time, dude. Hey, what's your name?
German. Nice to meet you.
Benjamin, who is German?
Well, German is the brain behind Drone8 Collective as one of the co-initiators of our collaboration, where they organized a drone building workshop at the start of this hackathon, and they built 18 drones in a matter of 3 hours.
Is it okay? Christina joins?
Yeah, of course.
She's my we are like co-organizing it in Germany.
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Yes, we are originally coming from Ukraine, Christina and I, and in Ukraine, people are building and fundraising for drones already for over 3 years, and all kinds of people are doing this in Ukraine. You name it, artists, famous athletes, all of them. We would like that Europe joins on this movement completely. We would like that in all of the countries, in all of the cities, there are people building, fundraising for drones, that this is a one big force that works together, that we stop our enemy, that we are working for freedom with our hands, our own hands, where people can build their own drone in our workshops, see what matters right now today, and pretty much make impact like this directly.
From your point of view, can Europe become fully sovereign and like fully autonomous on drone development and similar autonomous vehicles?
In my opinion, I'm very optimistic at this. I think yes, totally. I believe that really in like in the last year, so many things have already changed, and people like really started to notice that you know you need to like prioritize what you build.
So what are we looking at?
So we are looking here at a 10-inch FPV drone. This is having like the battery here on top, and all of this, so the frame and all the avionics inside, you are assembling at the workshops. So all of this was also built at the workshop. And as you see on top, there is also some Raspberry Pi attached. So people were hacking here at the hackathon, and they had the opportunity to add something to the drone, enhance the capabilities of it. But at each of our workshops, you can build this drone like this fully by yourself.
How do you guys, like not only for the workshops, but in general in Ukraine, like how do you get all the parts? Because you guys are building hundreds of thousands of drones in the Ukraine right now.
Yeah, Ukraine builds like 4.5 million drones a year. So we are here, you could say so, like one force that drives that, but we are like not the only one, obviously, because so many drones are out there. We have our contacts in Czech Republic, where we have like pretty much fully like sourced European drones, where it's also in process, where they are like also in process to replace fully the Chinese components, because a lot of components are still coming from China, right? And we know what this kind of issue could be, obviously, in the future. So we have really reliable partners in Europe that help us with the equipment, and we try this way to show also to the European public that Europe can build really like hardware stuff, can build effective and efficient stuff that defends us. So
before the war started, like what were your plans? Like what did you want to study? What did you were thinking?
A lot of things shifted really as soon as really the war in my country really started, because first of all I wanted just to become an aerospace engineer, go probably to Airbus or go to some adjacent company that does big planes, kind of like going from very big planes to completely small vehicles that are also flying but have a really, really big impact for our country, for our future, for everyone in Ukraine.
The main goal of this video is just to show people worldwide, but especially in Europe, that you can't just do things. You can't just go out there and actually make European sovereign. You can work on that kind of things. And people like you make that possible. People like you show that it's possible. People come here to build like an idea. They come with an idea to build a hack, like a little project, a prototype or something. You know, maybe they win. What's the next step for them usually?
The most important thing is to continue after the hackathon to have some real live impact. It's not about winning the hackathon. It's really about finding out with whom do I have to work. What's the team that I want to continue working on this project to have some real world impact, and then build a prototype, have a proof of principle, and learn, you know, does it work, doesn't it work? Take the prototype, go to Ukraine, test it there, see if it works or not, iterate on the concept to get to a point where you're like, oh, this works, this is amazing, this is so much better than anything we would have thought, you know, if we would have stayed in our ivory tower.
Okay, so this was the European DefenseTech Hackathon. We will now head over to Estonia, from Amsterdam to Tallinn, to meet with Ragnar of Darkstar, and we will check out a few of the local drone factories and see what's going on there. Let's go. Hey.
Good morning.
You Ragnar?
Yes.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Maybe you should drive immediately to Ukraine. Are you ready?
To what?
Maybe you should immediately drive to Ukraine.
Oh yeah. That's the trick. Now you're like taking me to Ukraine?
Yes.
Nice. Where are you bringing me now?
So we are going to the place where all of the cars are now, where basically all of the drivers will meet and start to drive to the Kiev. So we have today a nice convoy. We have 13 cars, which is quite easily handleable. We will have 2 groups because we are sending them by smaller groups. And they will drive to start. We will see the journey of the. Which starts here. It takes usually 30 hours to get to Kiev. And it's early morning in Tallinn it's 4 o'clock, 4:20, and that's exactly what we usually do. We start very early.
And those trucks, those minivans, are like packed full with what kind of stuff?
Basically, we are sending what Ukraine really needs. They need capability, and capability means that they need a logistical solution from the zero line, which means that those pickups are specially prepared. the key element is not only making like full service and repairs so they could last at least 50,000 kilometers, but the key element also here is that there are basically the extra battery. And when they arrive to Kiev, we will add jammers because 80% of casualties in the front line is now done by the drones. And being sure that we can increase the life cycle of the cars, we are now basically rebuilding them, painting them, and so on. But the key element is jammers. But people don't maybe realize that the front line is way more dangerous and way more difficult than we could imagine. Like every moment, those cars need to be ready to speed up from the 0 to 150 out of blue, because if you are under the attack, you just need to move very, very fast. We not only back, but what we need to do exactly is that we need to basically add extra battery system, because jammers are very heavy about basically the energy. And if you run this from usual battery, your battery will die. So let's take some coffee here and then.
Let's get some coffee, yeah.
Many times what happens is they're sending us, hey, look what just happened. We just got like, our car was wrecked, but luckily team survived. And then we are trying to, fundraise and get them new car.
How did you get to start this?
I have been connected with Ukraine from 2011. I basically organized hackathons there. One of the best people ever. I have met in Ukraine, super talented, very motivated. I opened Startup Center in Kiev 2019, so I had a company there. I invested in Ukraine startups. So when war started, we had already prepared for that. My team basically met next to the Kiev Lift 99 hub and was driving to Lviv and started to help Ukraine. First it was just, you will do whatever it takes, the helmets, anything. And one moment there was some friend of my team lost the car. So I just went to the car portal, bought first Toyota Hilux immediately, and then was, hey, I will drive this personally to Lviv after 4 days. So first convoy was 14 cars. It was done in 4 days. It was the biggest craziness ever because we didn't have enough drivers. Usually in this convoy you see there were 2 drivers per car, so we can rotate them, so it will be nice and easy. In first convoy we had 1 car, 1 driver per convoy. It was a madness. I was so tired when we basically arrived to the first Polish border, slept, and then was going to the Ukraine to Lviv. And now we just understood that they are needing it. Like by the statistics I saw in February alone, in 1 month, there was at least 600 civilian pickup trucks was destroyed by Russians. So this tells you how badly Ukraine ongoingly need cars. Good morning.
Good morning.
You didn't slept in?
Yeah.
Was
I'm really awake.
Really?
Yeah.
Very good.
Who are the drivers?
I think that in this case from Belgium, I think that she's from Germany. So we have everywhere, basically. It's very international. Somebody from UK and so on. So basically this is built what they evacuated from Zero Line. It's special car, rebuilt for the medical purposes.
Where do you build them?
This is exactly here. Our partner are building them, and these 2 cars are specifically built for that purposes.
So they're basically medical trucks.
Yes.
Custom built.
Yes. So they are basically replacing ambulance in Zero Line because you cannot send ambulances to Zero Line. But this can go as close as it could. So this is pushed in and it is just speeding up away. If you will get any something is blowing up here, artillery and so on, this should just, all of the pieces of metal, this should stop them. So the idea is that we try to increase every car basically the chances of surviving and lasting on the front line. So every time we give cars, we also the situation and learn and improve every single car.
And it's called Help 99?
Yes, and here you can see how many amazing basic supporters we have.
We transform these patches into these trucks and into the saved lives.
I see NAFO trucks everywhere.
near front line.
The medevac saved about 79 people in 24 hours, and this is just one vehicle.
How have you changed?
Actually, drastically. I've changed drastically, I can tell you. Before that, I wasn't really a military person at all. Was really far away from that, but you get inside and you understand the need of people, of proper people with good motivation to be fighting, to not give up and just continue rolling.
Friday you will meet soldiers. So basically in the morning, and there will be I think 13, 14 units. That's the number one thing why we are here, why we are helping them. Just one thing, giving the shit show on the US and so on, this help is getting more and more critical also from the perspective of morale. And showing that there are so many people globally who really support them in reality. Show them this gratitude, because you probably are meeting the bravest people I have ever met in my life, at least. Because those people, many of them coming from frontline, taking car and coming back to the front. For me and Peter and everybody in team, that's number one reason why we're doing, to helping this exact soldier and so on, to basically save the Ukraine and then save the Europe and world.
So we have now the trucks leaving to Ukraine, custom built, completely crowdfunded, completely volunteer run, 30-hour drive down to first Warsaw and then Kiev. And the goal is to directly give it to soldiers on the front line.
Ragnar sent me home to have a little bit of sleep, because apparently if you arrive at 2 a.m. in your Airbnb and you get up at 3 a.m., that's not a lot of sleep. Anyway, we are now, it's now afternoon, and I'm now heading back to his co-working space that he's running here to talk a little bit about the trucks, but also about his fund and what's the goal with his fund, because he's right now starting a fund focusing on defense tech, and he has the reputation and the credentials to do this because he has been running one of the largest meetup series around defense tech. He has been running hackathons, he has been running an accelerator, he's doing NAFO and a bunch of other stuff. So he might be one of the perfect people in Europe to do this. So want to hear more, and we're now heading over and hearing a bit what it means to do a Miltech fund.
For us, it's very personal, because we are neighbor and we are a small country. We cannot just buy F-35, whatever. We need to rebuild our army, and we need to build future of the army. But the context, if Russia would want to attack Estonia, then Iskander rocket would be here in 1 minute. 1 minute, which is, just think about it.
And you also have the whole, you actually know what it means to live under Russia?
Yes, because we have been occupied sadly, we was occupied 1939 until 1991. We lost our independence. We know what it means. So our for us, it's existential. If we want to stay relevant, if we want to keep being independent, we need to have the most modern army in the world. That's it. Because we don't have too much money. We don't have too many people. We have 1.3 million people. So we need to be extremely smart. So what we are now with founders, with government, with army, and so on, kind of at the same level, we need to build the most thriving defense ecosystem in the world. And luckily, many elements are supporting it. Estonia launched one of the first government defense fund, which is investing to the companies which could have lethal component, not dual use, but single use. And that's basically the first governmental VC fund which is already active now. It was launched in January.
You also run a meetup series, which is quite famous at this point, right?
We have a neighbor. Our neighbor is in war with Ukraine, and because of that, many people who never ever wanted to touch defense started to really look how we can help Ukraine to give technological advantage to win the war. And that's the best strategy for winning the war. Many bright minds separately in Estonia started more and more look this. So a year ago, we had the first meetup about defense, and we had immediately full house, 200 people. And now we are doing every second, basically, months we are doing a defense meetup, and now we are reaching full capacity. We had 300 people from Donaustahl.
That's not a meetup, that's a conference.
It is, it's a mini conference, but we haven't changed the name. And and what is extremely unique to see really something which I would never imagine. You have general talking with hacker and really talking in the ways that they understand each other.
Like, how do you think here of Europe, Estonia, Ukraine? Like, what's the, like, what changed, and also like, how is the collaboration? Like, what is the actual network from your point of view?
The fundamental problem has been always defense is how slow is the system.
Yes, procurement and everything.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You will take 4 years to develop the product and another 4 years to sell it. Nowadays, in Ukraine, you can build product 6 to 10 months that it's ready to use in combat. And in Ukraine, you can make a revenue 12 months later, because what is difference in Ukraine is that every battalion has a budget to buy. So you literally, instead of having one governmental agency, you have more than 200 procurement people who can buy a thing. And that's fundamental thing which is important for the founders, because you can build and see impact. You can save lives immediately in Ukraine. And if you get that stamp that your product is working in frontline, then in your home market, is it Estonia, Germany, Denmark, name it, you can go to your local military and tell, hey, look, my product is working in Ukraine. What about you? And I see now also change of the governments in Europe to simplify the procurement. It still takes a long time indeed. But the fact is there is huge will to change it. It takes time, but it has never been best time to build defense as is today, having also impact, literally saving lives. In the beginning of the war, and every NATO army has still one rule, which is golden hour. What means golden hour? Golden hour is that you want to evacuate wounded in 60 minutes. That's not the case anymore. It's just impossible. Now they're talking about golden day. What it means that every soldier need to turn into the drone operator and now into the combat medic as well, because you need to be ready to save your basically team member life, to giving the critical medical care until you can evacuate the person.
Because basically, like, once you have a somehow safe position, it's very, very hard to leave this, because there's drones everywhere.
And there is like 24/7. It's still a little bit easier on the night time, but thermal cameras are growing with unbelievable speed. Everything can be tracked. The fact is exactly that soldier role is changing, and you need to start to basically train superhumans. And that what many people missing sometimes is just focusing drone this and that is how to prepare human being soldier is also fundamentally changing. Because you need to train so many new skills and fundamentally keep training every 3 months.
Plus, if they have to make completely independent decisions with like dozens of drones at once, they basically become like mini generals.
Totally.
Where you have to like control the whole scenery with like 2 other people maybe.
Yeah, because you are touching a very important point. The jamming is at the level that more and more you could have that you don't have communication, let's say, a few hours. And you need to immediately make decisions, which means exactly you need to be more independent. You need to have best training to make those decisions. I was talking with one of the Ukrainian units which has been in the combat more than 2 years, and he told that he has been lucky, hasn't lost any as a dead. So how is possible? Training. He literally trains every week his members of the unit, and this is 2 areas exactly. Any kind of drone, new skills, and being a medical person. And every week. And think about, it's not like it was before that you have basic trainings and you are learning and you are now smart soldier. It is changing, and that's fundamentally something which is different, because the best soldier is today the drone operator. Which is exactly somebody who probably, if you have been doing 10 years of gaming, you are best prepared for being actually a drone operator.
Your time has come.
I still believe and hope that this war has some solution, not next 6 months, but maybe after a year or 2. And the moment, if your product has been used in the combat and has stamped work, you have huge advantage to really, after that, to sell your product at least next 5 years. Because the biggest difference is that you can build something in your home country and then go to the actual combat in Ukraine and see that it doesn't work. This has happened with many huge primes from US and Europe and so on, because this, as we talked, this environment is changing so fast. And biggest challenge is electronic jamming in the level what no one even cannot understand before you put, oh my God, it doesn't work. Because there is a GPS is not working and everything else. So
I talked to like a few Ukrainian founders, and they basically said the way they think of it is everything you do within 2 weeks most likely is outdated because the cycles are so quick. So like if you do anything in drones where you feel like you have an edge, like within a few weeks, Russia will have some sort of like a counter to it, even if it's not a full counter, but you already need to start like figuring out the next solution.
Exactly. You could have advantage more than 2 weeks. I would be 2-3 months. But the fact is, if your product has super effective, you cannot rely on that. You immediately start to do the new version because you know after 2-3 months there is countermeasure which is on the scale. Like I agree. Probably you can re-engineer and have answer in a few weeks, but you cannot put it to the production in a few weeks. Yeah. So that sense, it's cat and mouse game all the time. And what is now different also here is that think about end user, it's military. We need to help to change them to being very fast and innovative, because they need to continuously all the time look new solutions, test them and implement them, and that's mind-blowing. In Ukraine, every military unit, battalion, brigade is like a separate company. They have their own HR, marketing, training, and so on. This is what also we need to rebuild in Europe.
So like in a way, this is like one-to-one startup innovation, vessel velocity, which also means the people who have the best startup ecosystem and the best, out of that, the best supplier ecosystem ultimately will have the better edge at any frontline.
Totally. I think that one thing, first I was reading a solution document 2023 autumn, State of the War, and started to really deep dive what is the defense and so on. I found many amazing founders. That's why we started Darkstar, which today is building investment fund, which is the first investment fund in Europe, which is investing also a company which is building military products. But we understood one thing very fast, which you just touched, is that it's not only about finding startup founders, helping them to scale and investing. We understood very fast that we need to help governments, how they can rebuild procurement, and we need to also go and help militaries, how they could build faster innovation cycles inside of the military.
So I spoke with Ukrainian founders who you cannot even find on like online, the website. They have no website, no nothing, for the main reason that they are literally afraid that their teammates or their families might be assassinated. I have met VCs that are considering getting private protection even here in Europe. How do you think personally about like your level of like safety, OPSEC of your founders, or in general, like, is this something does this keep you awake at night, that at some point like some crazy Russian might like?
I think that the fact is every defense founder needs to understand that you need to learn to build the things in a very secure way. But it's mainly, I would say, the first layer is that you need to be building products in the ways that no one cannot hack you online. That's the number one thing. Yes, you need to also be smart, how you build, what to share, and you need to basically look this every week, like you about your security. The third layer, I would say, is that as this sector is growing, if you are alone in your country and there is no defense founder, you would start to be a little bit freaked out. But the more we have people and product and the founders, the more difficult it is to basically for our enemy basically to attack this. The fact is that some risks are staying, but what I see exactly is that in the free world, depending on the country, but in Estonia, I have huge belief our security services and stuff is working very intensively. But yes, you need to understand if you pick that sector, it has risks, and you need to be smart about those risks. You need to address them. But in the long term, the more companies, the less is basically pressure into the one company. If you have one company, everybody knows this. But if you have hundreds, then this is the scale when any more enemy don't know what to look, what to deal. But yeah, security will stay as a main pillar, which every founder need to deal. But same time, we are in the beginning of the boom. We are like, for example, Ukraine has 2,000 teams which are building something. Estonia alone has more than 100 now. All Nordics has less than 100. I believe that after year 2, Estonia will double at least. In Europe, we would have like thousands of companies.
How do you see the future of combat warfare in general? Like we talked about jamming, we talked about drones. Like how can I imagine the battlefield of like in 10 years from now?
what I see is that unmanned solutions are developing with unbelievable speed. So first we know all about the drones. Now we have reached to the level that the drones are having like, a rifle, which means that we are moving to the directions that what's the difference between fighter jet or the very advanced drone. I see drones, I know a company already which is building jet engine for the drones. So which means that unmanned solutions will take huge part of the warfare in the future. Today, 80% of the damage is already done with drones in the combat.
80%?
80%, 80.
Wow.
But we need to understand, we also have seen first robotic attacks from Ukraine side when units was using land-based drones and flying drones together.
Land-based basically means like
wheels,
cars,
yes,
little.
No, like UGVs, like ground-based vehicles,
like ARX and this.
Unmanned ground-based vehicles which are moving and same time there are flying things, and those are working together as a swarm. So what we definitely will see is that there will be this year first results, and so you would have drones which are flying last 1-2 kilometers only based by machine learning and some elements of AI. So there are more and more like robotics attack, and this means that the future is really systems which are depending less on human, but human element will stay because somebody need to set up the mission, test it out, and so on. So we cannot replace human next 10 years in the combat, but the function is changing, number is changing, and also it demands so much from the soldiers.
Do you think there's a non-zero chance that Europe could become like the drone factory for the free world?
We already know that there are one country who can build drone with parts made in that country, and that's Ukraine. Ukraine has already fully Ukraine-made drones.
Full stack, including batteries and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
It's more expensive indeed. Main problem is exactly batteries and engines. There are more and more reality check from the armed forces that they need drone ecosystem. So you're right. In that sense, we have unique opportunity to take this battle and build stuff, production in Europe. But we also need to understand that it will be way more limited if governments are buying, they understand where is going parts, where is this produced, if something happens, how is your logistical cycle, and so on. So in that sense, they're ready to pay premium, which gives us opportunity even to produce that in Europe, because the fact is we cannot compete with price, but we can compete with other categories. And the fact is that I see already today clear signs that government procurements want to be sure there is no Chinese parts, but not only, they're also looking what's happening in Americas and telling we would prefer things which is fully made in Europe.
Full stack sovereign. We have been talking about procurement, we've been talking about full stack and drone development, and now we're heading over to one of the factories here in Estonia. So let's go.
Let's go.
Ragnar, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, you Tony's?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. We are now with Tony's of Kratworks. He graciously allowed us to take a look at his place where they build defense drones, and for multiple reasons, from security to 500 other reasons, we cannot show the whole space. There's a few places that are off limits, but we will go into the prototyping lab and take a look. Can you walk me a little bit through what the stations are, how you usually work here?
Everything that you need for the prototyping is here, starting from basic hand tools to more sophisticated measuring tools.
What's the purpose of this one?
So the purpose of this drone is to train people how to shoot down moving objects. So the idea is that an infantry squad will take their rifles and then try to shoot down a moving object.
Like as a last effort if everything else fails?
Yes. Pump action shotguns are now something they need to train, but instead of giving them new weapons, they give training devices to soldiers so that they can fly it themselves and then they can try to shoot it down, because it's a very, very easy to use and very simple drone. It has basic GPS position holds so that you don't have to do a lot. We do a couple of hours of training to them so that they could know how to operate it, and then
also how to defend it.
Yeah. and they can do those training exercises.
And this is something you do with Ukrainian soldiers and Estonian soldiers?
No, this is just Estonian soldiers. It's something that they asked and we delivered. This is again a test prototype, but typically it consists out of an autopilot. There's a radio somewhere, there are motors, then there are batteries, and then there's usually visual navigation sensors that are usually looking down. And then somewhere in here there's a ESC or a electronic speed controller, and then some basic antennas, and that's your basic drone in that sense. Usually it's about 10 drones per unit or per team in the trenches, because if they have less than 10 for one night, it's already like a critical limit.
They need 10 per night?
Yes, because in some cases they tend to lose them because of various weather conditions, enemy jamming, they even get shot down, so you need to have spares.
Wow. And this is like in the case of reconnaissance or like any
reconnaissance,
kind of okay. So you basically are forced to send them a full box. How do you actually compete against jamming and everything? So like there's obviously like this big discussions of fiber cables, but like what's the other aspect?
So with this one we have a jamming resistant radio. So we work from 1.6 to 2.5. We do a lot of radio magic within these frequencies in order to avoid jamming, and the same with spoofing. The whole time that we have been in Ukraine, we have tested a lot of different things, what works, what doesn't work, how we need to change our software, so it's constantly evolving.
How can I, as a layman, how can I imagine jamming? Is it you sending so much noise that the drone just doesn't understand anymore what is, like it doesn't hear the actual signals anymore?
You can imagine this as being in a really loud room, and you want to speak to a friend who's across the room. If there's a lot of noise in the room, then you might be able to understand what he's saying, but it gets all mumbled up, and it's the same with GPS. But with GPS, this is how GPS jamming works. But if we talk about GPS spoofing, that's more advanced. Then you can imagine this being in a like a situation where somebody is trying to repeat what your friends say, but it's kind of like as a delay. But some of the messages that get through are mixed up.
So the idea of GPS spoofing is basically you intentionally send the wrong coordinates.
Wrong coordinate, wrong speed, wrong position estimate. You name it.
Given that we are like now in front of the one room, you're like more comfortable if you don't share it. How do you think in general about security and OPSEC in this industry where there's like so much espionage and so much danger?
We have a lot put into security because this is really, really important for us. Because as you can see, there have been some attempts on different engineers and different heads of companies. But I do firmly believe that a lot of foreign governments might be interested in smaller companies who are just starting out, who don't have their security on that level.
Okay, so that's actually, you have to be almost like twice as careful if you're starting out in this industry, because you might be trusting people that you don't know, other people that are important trust you. All of a sudden you become a source of insecurity for others.
Yeah, exactly.
DefenseTech over the last years changed a lot, you know, but there's like now way more startups in that space. But like, what would you personally recommend somebody who wants to start in that area?
I would recommend joining the Darkstar bootcamps that Ragnar Saas is personally spearheading, because this is a controlled environment. You get access to the best knowledge on the field. You get access to the users from Ukraine and from other countries, and investors who have their sights set to invest into defense.
Why are you doing this, like personally?
The motivation is to have deterrence, because as we saw with Ukraine, Russia identifies weaknesses and tries to exploit those weaknesses. But if we have deterrence to make them think twice, then this is something that allows us to fight another day, so to say.
And this is why you're building, this is why you're sending regularly to Ukraine, this is why you get the feedback, why you improve, and like why you're building all of this.
Yeah, we fully understand that Estonia is small, but there's strength in numbers, so if we work together with friends, then we create these deterrents, and then hopefully we don't ever need to use it, but I do firmly believe, and everybody here in the company believe that if we do our small part, then this is something that will help us eventually.
Cool, appreciate Tony's. Thanks so much for your time. And if you want to get into DevTech, check out Darkstar, check out the DefenseTech Hackathon that we showed. And yeah, like be aware of the risks, but I think it's worth doing, right?
Yes.
Cool.
One issue I had is when researching this topic is DefenseTech is a hypersensitive topic where a lot of the founders who work in there have to be extremely careful. I spoke with Ukrainian founders that have VC-backed companies where you don't even find anything online about them. You don't even find the name of the company, you don't find there's no LinkedIn page, there is no nothing. I talked with them. They obviously don't want to be on the camera for a very simple reason. They're afraid that they, their family or their team get like literally assassinated by Russians. I talked to a bunch of other very good defense tech founders, like also friends of mine running some of the best defense tech companies in Europe. The problem that they have is that they have to be extremely careful about any PR because, as you can imagine, it's like a currently and always an extremely hot topic. But there's one guy who is very, very comfortable speaking very, very publicly about everything in this industry. This is Stefan of Donaustahl, and we're now going to meet him. I quickly flew over to Munich to meet him, and we get him like on the mic and see what he has to say.
Hey,
wie geht's dir? What is Donaustahl?
Donaustahl is one of the most important companies when it comes to drone warfare in Germany.
And you guys are fairly new, right? But you have like insane ambition as far as I understand.
Yeah, insane is a very good word describing Donaustahl. We started as a small startup in 2019 for firearms and sport shooting equipment. Yeah. And we made a hard shift towards drone technology in late 2023 and focusing 100% on it. We had connections to Ukraine before. Yeah. We delivered our first batch of drones to Kraken in last autumn, and we are continuously improving our products and developing a lot of new stuff.
And one of the things that makes you unique is that you try to be, even as a startup already, essentially full stack European and German, right?
Absolutely. This is crucial for us. So we do not want to be depending on Red China or to the United States because they're not friendly governments, and we want to maintain a 100% independency from these countries.
What is sovereignty to you?
Everything.
Everything?
Yes. Being independent from bad influences, especially from foreign government influences, is crucial for us. Mm-hmm. So and the other thing is, if I want to sell to the Bundeswehr of Germany in the near future, we have to be independent. So they do not accept Chinese technology, which is very good. And we have an upsale because we do also work with US free production.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's realistic that we will have the full stack here, like including batteries and everything?
Yes.
Yes?
Germany has everything. We have battery manufacturers, but these manufacturers are used to make very low numbers for extremely high prices. Mm-hmm. Because the numbers were so low, nobody was ordering. Everybody was ordering from China because it's a little bit cheaper, and so these companies do not have had the chance to raise up their production capacities because nobody was interested in big numbers. We are. Mm-hmm. So we are focusing right now to make drones and weapons for drones 100% in Germany. In German, there's a word for the superpower Germany has. It's called Mittelstand.
Yes.
These are medium companies who are very good specialists in their fields, but quite unknown to the public. So they do not have big names, but big numbers and big expertise. And they are approaching us, and if it fits, we work together. We do developing in-house, and production is outsourced.
From your point of view, like Europe is kind of famous for relying very strong on the US. Yeah. Like from your point of view, what has changed in the last few months, last year?
It's just quite.
It's weeks. Sorry, it's weeks. What has changed in the last few weeks?
Well, quite a lot. The new Trump administration went on rampage. on world economics and world politics. For me, the current government is a traitor government. Traitor to NATO, traitor to the alliance, and that has a very strong impact in German and European politics. So finally, at least there's one good thing about the Trump administration, that he really woke up Europe.
And do you see this change right now in the governments in Europe and like in the partners you have, or like the paths you're opening for you?
Yes, finally, I have to say finally, because we were fighting for years to get, for example, contracts with the government officials, and yeah, financing. It's a very big issue, had been a very big issue for us. We also solved that right now, because yeah, we did an independent bond. And it's currently going through the top, and we see that also the people of Europe really they were looking for some company like us who are finally doing something without China and without the United States.
If you would have a free wish towards the European Union, towards German governments, and be like, hey, please, could you just do X? What would be X?
Get your shit together. We can be sovereign, totally independent. We have everything we need for that. But what is lacking still right now, but for the last decades, that was lacking was courage. So the European Union has a bigger economy than the United States.
Yes.
So, and we are like beggars. We were beggars in when it came to security. So we relied that the Americans protect us, and now they will go away, likely. It is the only chance Europe has.
Yeah.
If we just sit back and just watching the situations, it will get worse for us as continent and for our society in general.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.